Okay, so learning objective number 4, we're looking at computing and evaluating gross profit margin or percentage, inventory turnover, and days in inventory outstanding. All right, this is relatively easy. We don't have to go into this too much. You should be able to kind of see how this all works. But a key indicator of a company's ability to sell its inventory at a profit is referred to as the gross profit percentage. And in most cases, you want a company to have a very high gross profit. Remember, the gross profit is the sales minus your cost of goods sold. So you want your gross profit to be high. You want profitability to be higher, especially if you're a for-profit organization or a company that is publicly traded. And so in doing so, a higher gross profit percentage is, generally speaking, going to be considered favorable. A merchandiser strives to increase this ratio. Gross profit stated as a percentage of sales, and so it's watched carefully by managers and investors. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the gross profit percentage. It's real pretty easy to compute. You'll take whatever your gross profit is, and you'll divide it by your net sales. So let's go ahead and just kind of look at an example here. So let's just assume, using these numbers, that our sales, this would be like on an income statement, the top of the income statement. Let's say our sales were $4,825,335. Let's assume that the cost of goods sold was $2,584,724. And let's assume that the gross profit then is computed by taking the sales minus your cost of goods sold. So therefore, your gross profit is $2,240,611. Well, just like in the slide that we looked at, the gross profit percentage is computed by taking your gross profit, and you're going to divide it by net sales revenue. So in this example here, our gross profit was $2,240,611, and then our net sales revenue is $4,825,335. So I'm going to put the line here to represent the division sign. And so we just simply do the computation. This divided by this. And in this example here, it turns out that our gross profit percentages to the nearest tenth is 46.4%. There it is, 46.4%. Now, this number by itself is almost meaningless. We know 46.4%. Is that good, bad? I don't know. How do we determine that? Well, we're going to take that information and we're going to compare it to something. And so what we like to do is compare it to either another company. So in this example here, let's see, Under Armour's at 46.4%. Let's compare it to Nike. They're a comparable company. They what are they at? 46.2%. So, I mean, those are pretty close. In fact, that's close enough where I would say it's almost insignificant, the differences. So I would say if I were Under Armour company, I'd walk away thinking, well, at least I'm, pretty close to Nike. I wouldn't be extraordinarily happy with this, nor would I be extraordinarily unhappy with this. I'd say, okay, we're at least keeping up with Nike, and Nike would be the same. They'd be looking at Under Armour and saying, okay, we're at least running close to what a good competitor of ours is running. So we'll take the look at the next computation. It's the inventory turnover. Now, we did something very similar with our accounts receivable turnover. The way we compute the inventory turnover rate is we're looking at, well, think of it this way. How many times do we sell our inventory within a specific period? And usually it's a year. If I'll take what I have in my inventory in terms of dollar amounts. How much do I have on average in my inventory? And how many times do I sell that amount in 1 year? Well, we have the numbers already categorized in a way that we could compute this pretty easily. And the inventory turnover rates is computed by taking the cost of goods sold, and we're going to divide it by the average inventory. It appears that our cost of goods sold in this example here is, I'm going to give it to you, 2584724. And we got this from the income statement, by the way. We can go look at the income statement. It shows the cost of goods sold. Oh, we have it right here. See, it's right there, cost of goods sold. Well, we're going to look at the balance sheet. I'm just going to pretend we have the balance sheet here. And what we have to have is a comparative balance sheet, which means we're going to be looking at 2 years. And we're trying to figure out for 16, but to do the 16, we need to come up with our average inventory. And to come up with our average inventory, we need the beginning plus the ending divided by 2. Same thing we did for receivables. Beginning plus ending divided by 2. So the beginning for 2016 is going to be equal to what the ending was for 2015. So this 2015 represents the beginning of 2016. So in other words, here's what I have to do. I have to then take my beginning plus my ending. I put these in parentheses because I want to make sure I do the order of operation correctly. These have to be added together first. That's why I have the parentheses. And then I'm going to divide that by 2. So we add those two together first. Whatever the result of that is I'm going to divide by 2. And that's going to give me 850,261. So the inventory turnover, the number of times I've turned over the inventory in 1 year, can be computed by taking the cost of goods sold and dividing it by the average inventory, which in this case is 3.04 times in 1 year. So then the question is well, on average, how many days is inventory sitting on the shelf? Well, what do I know? The way I can compute that is I can take 365 days in a year, and we're going to divide that by inventory turnover, the inventory turnover rate, which I just computed that to be 3.04. So what does that equal? Well, I'll take 365, I'll divide it by 3.04, and I'll come up with 120.07. So, we'll round that to 120 days. So what we're saying is that on average, we have inventory sitting on the shelf for 120 days. Now, is that good or bad? And the answer is, by itself, I can't tell you. But what I can tell you is, if last year's was 130 and this year's 120, that's good. We want inventory to turn over fast. We don't want it to be sitting on the shelf for very long. I will tell you that if we sell milk, we're in big trouble. But for the most part, if this is not milk, if this is not a perishable item, 120 days may or may not be good, but at least we know it's better than the prior year. So let's say it was 117 days in the prior year and now it's 120. Well, we're not going in the right direction. We prefer it to be in inventory less days rather than more days. So we're looking to lower the number of days in inventory to as much as possible. But the way we can really tell whether we're doing well is we're going to look at the 120, we're going to compare it to others in the same industry. If this is Under Armour, we're going to look at Nike's inventory and see what are the number of days they have. So let's take a look at what is on the slides. Here's the computation that we just did. They also did it for 2015, and but we didn't do it. But in doing so, they're using this as to being what the beginning inventory was for 2015, which was equal to 2014 ending inventory. So they come up with the same beginning plus ending, and they've actually flipped it. So this is the ending plus the beginning, and then we're going to divide that by 2. This asterisk shouldn't be there. It's misleading. There's no asterisk. Just like up here, there's no asterisk. There's no asterisk there. So ending plus beginning, or beginning plus ending, either way works, divided by 2, and that'll give you the number. So in this example here, they were at 120 days, just like we computed in 2016, but apparently they were at 117 days in 2015. So this shows not a good trend. They want to be a little bit faster. But let's take a look. Nike's days in inventory is 96 days. Under Armour is 120 days. Now, if I'm management, I wonder what's going on here, because Nike is selling their products faster than we are. Okay, so this tells me that we need to get better at it.